Judy Buenoano was born in 1943 in Quinlan, Texas. She grew up in a simple home. She was the second of 4 children. Her early years were hard and unstable. Her father was a World War II veteran. He struggled with heavy drinking and suffered from what we now call post-traumatic stress. This made life at home difficult. Her mother felt overwhelmed. She was often away. Judy learned to take care of herself very early. When she was 14, Judy left home. She married James Goodyear, who served in the military. That marriage did not last. They divorced soon after. Judy then married another serviceman. He was cruel to her. He later passed away in ways people found strange. Her third husband was also named James Goodyear. He had been hurt in Vietnam. He too passed away under unclear conditions in 1971. Judy's pattern of harming those close to her began in the early 1970s. In 1971, her first husband became ill and passed away. At first, doctors said it was natural. Soon after, Judy collected a life insurance payout. This raised doubts. In 1973, her second husband fell ill and passed away the same way. Again, Judy received an insurance settlement. The official cause was never fully explained. In 1978, Judy's son, Michael, grew suddenly sick. He too passed away after a brief illness. Investigators later found she had been giving him small doses of arsenic over time. This slowly poisoned him. Judy then collected another insurance payout. In 1983, Judy's boyfriend, Bobby Joe Morris, was in his car when it exploded. At first, it looked like an accident. Investigators later learned someone had planted a bomb. Judy was arrested and charged with causing his passing. Money seemed to be Judy's main goal. She took out life insurance policies on each person close to her. After they passed away, she collected on those policies. Her actions followed a clear plan to gain money. Her trial began in 1984. Prosecutors showed evidence from her husband's and son's sudden passings. Experts explained how arsenic had been used. Forensic evidence also tied her to the car bomb. Judy's lawyer said she was just unlucky. They argued each loss was an accident. The jury did not agree. They found her guilty of causing Bobby Joe's passing on purpose. She received the harshest punishment available. On the day her sentence was carried out, Judy remained calm. When asked if she had any final words, she said, "No, I don't." Many people were surprised by her lack of emotion. Before that moment, she asked for a simple meal. She wanted a salad, a baked potato with sour cream, and a glass of iced tea. She ate quietly in her cell. Then she was taken to the place where her sentence would be enforced. The next woman promised to take care of them. Then they all lost their lives. Born in 1906 in Füssen, Bavaria, Germany, Anna Marie Filser was the youngest of 12 children. Her family had money. Her father, Georg Filser, made furniture. By the time Anna arrived, 5 of her siblings had passed away. 2 brothers later lost their lives during World War I. As a child, Anna had serious health problems. She was hospitalized for 5 months due to a life-threatening infection. After that, she had surgery to remove a goiter. These events may have shaped her later behavior. When she was 19, Anna discovered she was expecting a child. She said the father was Dr. Max Maciecki, a Viennese doctor. No records support his existence. The real father of her son, Oscar, remains unknown. Her family was shocked. In 1929, they sent Anna to the United States. She left baby Oscar behind with her parents in Bavaria. Anna landed in Cincinnati, Ohio, and stayed with relatives named Max and Anna Duschel. There she met Philip Hahn, another German immigrant. They married in 1930. Anna went back to Germany for a short trip. She brought Oscar with her. After that, the family made Cincinnati their home. In Cincinnati, Anna held several jobs. She worked as a chambermaid and as a waitress. Over time, she became hooked on gambling. She spent many hours at horse races and betting places. To get money, she began offering care services to older men in the local German community. She promised to look after them. In return, she asked to be named in their wills. Her first known target was Ernst Kohler, age 73. On May 6, 1933, he made Anna his heir. He left her a house. Soon after, he passed away. Next came Albert Parker, age 72. He lent Anna money and then passed away. Jacob Wagner, age 78, left her $17,000 in cash before he passed away. George Gieselman, age 67, also gave her $17,000 before he passed away. Finally, George Obendowerfer, age 67, traveled with Anna and her son to Colorado Springs, Colorado. There, he passed away as well. Doctors found arsenic in all of their bodies. Authorities began to investigate after Obendowerfer's passing. The autopsy showed high arsenic levels. Investigators dug up the bodies of Anna's earlier clients. Tests showed they had all been poisoned. In September 1937, police arrested Anna. Prosecutors held her responsible for the outcome in each case. Her trial started on October 11, 1937, and went on for more than 3 weeks. Witnesses included people who survived Anna's care and experts who studied the poison. The jury found Anna guilty of first-degree homicide in the case of Jacob Wagner. 11 women and 1 man served on the jury. They did not ask for mercy. They recommended she receive capital punishment. On December 7, 1938, Anna Marie Hahn became the first woman in Ohio to face her sentence using the electrical method at the Ohio State Penitentiary in Columbus. She was 32 years old at that time. Anna always said she had done nothing wrong. In her final moments, she pleaded for mercy, saying, "Goodbye, all of you, and God bless you. Mr. Woodard," the warden, "don't do this to me. Think of my boy. Can't you think of my baby? Isn't there anybody who will help me? Is nobody going to help me?" The next woman grew up with cruelty. Then she became something the world couldn't understand. Ailen Warnos was born in 1956 in Rochester, Michigan. Life was hard very early. When she was 4, her father walked out on the family. Not long after, her mother passed away from cancer. Ailen and her brother went to live with their grandparents. Her grandfather was cruel. She later said he often hurt and mistreated her. That harm shaped much of her later life. By age 14, Ailen ran away from her grandparents' home. She made a living through the adult industry. Her teenage years were unstable. She moved from place to place. She slept on the streets at times. She also had several run-ins with the police over minor offenses. This desperate life pushed her into more danger. Things escalated quickly in her late 30s. Between 1989 and 1990, she took the lives of 7 men in Florida. She met most of them while on the roadside, offering services. She used a .22 caliber pistol at close range. These events unfolded over about a year. She described her actions as self-protection. She claimed the men had tried to harm her during or after they met. Prosecutors saw it as something deliberate and calculated. They pointed to her careful choice of victims and the fact that some had money taken from them. In 1991, a highway patrol officer stopped her. That stop led to her arrest. At first, she denied everything. Soon after, she admitted to ending 6 men's lives. She still insisted it was self-defense. Her trial in 1992 drew huge attention. The defense said Ailen suffered from mental illness and past trauma. They argued she acted out of fear. The prosecution showed evidence of planning. They noted that she kept some victims' belongings. The court found her guilty on 6 counts of intentionally taking lives. She was given the maximum penalty for each count. While waiting for her sentence to be carried out, Ailen gave interviews. She spoke of her past harm and showed moments of anger. Some people saw her as a broken woman who lost control. Others viewed her only as a cold-blooded offender. On October 9, 2002, her sentence was carried out by state-administered injection. She was 46 years old. She declined the traditional last meal, which could have been anything under $20, and instead requested only a cup of coffee. Her last words mixed defiance with faith. "I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day, with Jesus June 6th. Like the movie, big mothership and all. I'm not afraid of passing." The next woman believed he loved her. But what did they do together? That's a dark story. Martha Juel Beck was born in May 1920 in Milton, Florida. She had a gland condition that caused major weight gain and early puberty. Her childhood was hard. She later said her brother forced her into unwanted, intimate acts. Her mother blamed her for that. These experiences left Martha feeling unstable and insecure. After finishing school, Martha trained as a nurse. She struggled to find work because of her appearance. She then took a job preparing bodies for burial. Soon after, she moved to California. There, she worked at a U.S. Army hospital. She became pregnant, but the father would not marry her. To cover this, Martha said he had passed in the Pacific Campaign. She gave birth to a daughter. Later, she married Alfred Beck. They had a son. That marriage ended soon after. By 1947, Martha was out of work and raising 2 children alone. She found comfort in romance novels and movies. She placed a personal ad looking for a companion. Raymond Fernandez answered her ad. He had been born on December 17, 1914 in Hawaii to Spanish parents. He served in the Spanish Merchant Navy and in British intelligence during World War II. A head injury in service changed his mind and behavior. After prison time for minor offenses, he began using personal ads to find women. His plan was to charm them, take their money, and sometimes end their lives. When Martha and Raymond met, they saw a chance to work together. Martha fell for his attention. She agreed to help him. She pretended to be his sister. This made women feel safe when they met the pair. Between 1947 and 1949, they targeted women who replied to personal ads. Their first known victim was Janet Fay, a 66-year-old widow in Albany, New York. After Janet became engaged to Raymond, Martha struck her with a hammer. Raymond then cut off Janet's air supply until she stopped breathing. Next, they went to Michigan. There they met Delphine Downing, a 28-year-old widow, and her 2-year-old daughter. They gave Delphine a sedative. Martha ended the little girl's life by drowning her. Raymond then shot Delphine. They hid both bodies under Delphine's home. Neighbors grew worried when Delphine and her daughter vanished. Police traced the couple and arrested them in March 1949. Their trial began on June 9, 1949, in New York City. The prosecution laid out each horrible event in detail. The defense argued that Raymond had controlled Martha's mind. After 44 days of testimony, the jury found both of them guilty. On August 18, 1949, the judge sentenced them to capital punishment using the electrical method. On March 8, 1951, at Sing Sing Prison, Martha and Raymond faced the chair together. In their final moments, they spoke of their love. Martha, through a statement read by her attorney, said, "Prisons and the death house have only strengthened my love for Raymond. In the history of the world, how many crimes have been attributed to love?" When Raymond heard those words, he replied, "The news brought to me that Martha loves me is the best I've had in years. Now I'm ready to die." The next woman found God in prison, but couldn't escape her dark past. Velma Barfield was born Margie Velma Bullard in 1932 in Eastover, South Carolina. She was the second of 9 children. Her family belonged to a strict Pentecostal church. Her father often used physical discipline. Her mother did not step in. They lived without electricity or running water. Money was very tight. At 17, Velma left school to marry Thomas Burke. They moved to Parkton, North Carolina. They had 2 children. Their life together was calm for more than 15 years. In 1965, Thomas was in a car crash. He suffered a concussion and began to have constant headaches. He also started drinking more. On April 4, 1969, their house caught fire while Velma was away. Thomas lost his life from smoke inhalation. A few months later, a second blaze burned the house down. In 1970, Velma married Janine Barfield. He was a widower. Less than a year later, on March 22, 1971, Jennings passed away of heart problems. In 1974, Velma became a caregiver for an elderly couple, Montgomery and Dolly Edwards, in Lumberton, North Carolina. Montgomery fell ill in late 1976. He passed on January 29, 1977. Just over a month later, Dolly showed the same symptoms. She passed away on March 1, 1977. Velma later admitted she was responsible for what happened to Dolly. Later in 1977, Velma took another care job. This time, she looked after 76-year-old Record Lee, who had broken her leg. On June 4, 1977, Lee's husband, John Henry, fell suddenly ill. He had stomach and chest pains. He vomited and had severe diarrhea. He lost his life soon after. Velma later admitted she had poisoned him. Another victim was Roland Stewart Taylor. He was Velma's boyfriend and related to Dolly Edwards. Velma feared he had learned she was forging checks on his account. She mixed rat poison into his beer and tea. Taylor grew weak. He stopped breathing on February 3, 1978. His autopsy showed arsenic in his body. After her arrest, Janine Barfield's body was dug up. Traces of arsenic were found. Velma denied harming Jennings. She did admit to taking Montgomery's, Dolly's, and John Henry Lee's life, but she only faced trial for Stewart Taylor's case. On March 28, 1978, a grand jury in Robeson County, North Carolina, charged Velma with first-degree homicide. Because of heavy media coverage, her trial was moved to a neighboring county. The trial began on November 27, 1978. Judge Henry A. McKinnon presided. Prosecutor Joe Freeman Britt led the case. During closing arguments, Velma sat still and showed little emotion. She even applauded the prosecutor's final words. The jury decided she should face capital punishment. Velma stayed on the row for people awaiting execution at Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina. Over time, she became a devoted Christian. She spent her days praying and talking with other inmates. Billy Graham, a well-known evangelist, spoke highly of her. Many people asked the governor to spare her life. Governor Jim Hunt said no. Velma chose not to seek any more appeals. She said, "I am sorry for all the hurt that I have caused." On November 2, 1984, her sentences was carried out. For her last meal, she asked for a bag of cheese doodles and a can of Coca-Cola. What drives a woman to poison her family? Not once, but again and again? Mary Frances Avery was born in 1899 in Rahway, New Jersey. She lost her parents when she was young. Her maternal grandparents then took care of her and her siblings. As a child, she kept to herself. She made few friends, but did very well in school. When she was 15, she moved with her family to Newark, New Jersey. There, she finished high school. In 1917, Mary Frances met John Creighton. He had just returned from serving overseas in World War I. They married on December 25, 1918. Before long, they had 2 children, Ruth and John Jr. The young family lived with John's parents in the Roseville neighborhood of Newark. Tensions grew in that home. Mary Frances did not get along with her mother-in-law, Anna Creighton. Her younger brother, Charles Raymond Avery, also came to live with them. Disagreements over chores and money became common. John's parents often sided with him. This made Mary Frances feel unsupported. In the early 1920s, troubling events began. In 1923, Charles Raymond Avery became ill after eating at the Creighton home. He soon passed away. Mary Frances and John were arrested. Authorities suspected poisoning. In court, there was not enough proof. The couple went free. Still, people remembered those suspicions. By 1935, the Creightons moved again. This time, they went to Baldwin on Long Island. They lived with Everett Applegate and his wife, Ada. Ada was very overweight and could not leave her bed. On September 27, 1935, Ada grew suddenly ill and passed away. At first, doctors thought it was a heart problem. During Ada's funeral, the police stopped the service. They ordered her body dug up. Tests showed a high level of arsenic in her system. Investigators grew sure that foul play was involved. Then an envelope arrived at the police station. It held old newspaper clips about the Avery case. The sender was said to be a bread delivery worker who had once been stiffed on payment by Mary Frances. Soon after, Mary Frances and Everett were arrested again. This time, they faced a formal charge of taking Ada's life. In interviews, Mary Frances said she had spiked Ada's eggnog with arsenic. She claimed Everett asked her to do it. She said she feared her daughter Ruth might be expecting Everett's baby. Everett admitted to unallowed relations with Ruth, but denied asking Mary Frances to harm Ada. News outlets called Mary Frances the Long Island Borgia because of the poison link. The prosecution argued that multiple people tied to her had passed away under suspicious conditions. The defense said there was no hard proof. On January 30th, 1936, the jury found Mary Frances and Everett guilty of causing Ada's passing. The judge gave them the capital punishment sentence using the electrical method. The date set for carrying out the sentence was the week of March 9th, 1936, at Sing Sing Prison. But the actual date was on July 16th, 1936, Mary Frances Creighton. Witnesses said she fainted just before it happened. She was unconscious when the chair was turned on. But how did a former therapist become one of Texas's most chilling headlines? Kimberly McCarthy was born in 1961 in Greenville, Texas. She trained as an occupational therapist. She also worked as a home health aide. In 1993, she married Aaron Michaels. They had one child. Their marriage ended in 1996. Over time, McCarthy became addicted to snow. In 1990, she was convicted of forgery. She also faced charges for illegal intimate work and for taking services without paying. On July 21, 1997, McCarthy went to her neighbor Dorothy Booth's home in Lancaster, Texas, saying she needed to borrow sugar. Booth was 71 years old and had been a college professor. Once inside, McCarthy struck Booth 5 times with a butcher object. She then battered her with a candelabrum. McCarthy cut off one of Booth's fingers to take her diamond wedding ring. She took Booth's purse and her Mercedes-Benz. Later, McCarthy pawned the ring to get money for more snow. Investigators found strong proof against McCarthy. She used Booth's credit cards at a liquor store. She was carrying Booth's driver's license. DNA from the weapon linked McCarthy to the harm done to Booth. Authorities also looked into 2 other cases from 1988. Both involved elderly women in Dallas County. One was 81-year-old Maggie Harding. The other was 85-year-old Jetty Lucas. DNA evidence suggested McCarthy took part in those fatal acts too. She was never officially charged for them, though. In 1998, a Dallas County jury found McCarthy guilty of taking Booth's life. On November 24, 1998, she received the state's ultimate penalty. In 2001, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned that verdict. She went through a new trial and on November 1, 2002, received the same sentence again. McCarthy's lawyers filed many appeals. They said the selection of jurors was unfair because of her race. They also claimed she did not have good legal representation. In July 2012, her last federal appeal was turned down. 2 times, officials delayed carrying out her penalty. Finally, on June 26, 2013, McCarthy's sentence was carried out by injection at the Huntsville unit in Huntsville, Texas. She was the 500th person to face this penalty in Texas since the practice resumed in 1976. Her last words were, "This is not a loss. This is a win. You know where I'm going. I'm going home to be with Jesus. Keep the faith. I love you all." The next woman lived in mansions, dined with millionaires, and buried bodies in basements. Why? She was born Lofi Louise Preslar in September 1880 in Bienville, Louisiana. Her family was wealthy. Her father published the local newspaper. But money couldn't hide what was coming. At just 15, Louise was expelled from a private school in New Orleans. She'd been caught stealing from classmates and had formed relationships the school considered scandalous. Trouble had already started to follow her. In 1903, she married Henry Bosley, a traveling salesman. Their marriage unraveled fast. When Bosley found Louise with another man, he ended his own life soon after. Louise fled to Waco, Texas. There she met Joe Appel, a diamond dealer. Less than a week later, Appel's lifeless body was found with a gunshot wound. His jewelry was missing. Louise claimed self-defense. A male jury agreed and let her walk free. But that was only the beginning. In 1920, she moved into the Los Angeles mansion of Jacob C. Denton, a wealthy mining engineer. Then Denton vanished. Louise forged his signature to empty his accounts and rent out his property. Weeks later, workers discovered his body buried under the basement floor. He had been shot, with clear signs of neck injuries. Louise was arrested and convicted. In 1921, she was sentenced to life in prison, but she didn't stay there. After just 18 years, she was paroled in 1939. She changed her name to Anna Lee and took a job as a housekeeper for Margaret Logan in Pacific Palisades. Then, in 1944, Margaret disappeared. Louise claimed Margaret had been injured by her husband and left town. But something didn't add up. Investigators dug up the yard and found Margaret's body buried near the home, a gunshot to the back of her neck. Louise was arrested again. This time, the jury wasn't as forgiving. Prosecutors brought up her past conviction to show a disturbing pattern. In 1945, she was sentenced to capital punishment. On April 11, 1947, Louise Pete entered the gas chamber at San Quentin State Prison. She became only the second woman ever executed in California's gas chamber. Her final words were calm and chilling. "I'm ready. I've been ready for a long time." The final stories didn't end in the chamber, but the damage she caused can't be forgotten. What if the person saving your child was actually planning their last breath? Janine Jones was born in 1950 in Texas. She was adopted by a man who owned a nightclub and his wife. In 1968, Jones married her high school boyfriend. They had one child together. The couple divorced in 1974. They briefly got back together in 1977 and had another child. Not long before she was formally charged, she married again, this time to a 19-year-old nursing assistant. That marriage ended quickly. He filed for divorce soon after. Jones started working as a nurse in the late 1970s. She became a licensed vocational nurse, or LVN, and worked at Bexar County Hospital in San Antonio. Today, that hospital is known as University Hospital. She worked in the pediatric intensive care unit, where seriously ill children were treated. During her time there, an unusually high number of children passed away while under her care. The pattern didn't match normal expectations. Hospital leadership became worried about possible lawsuits. To avoid problems, they told all licensed vocational nurses, including Jones, to resign. They replaced them with registered nurses. No investigation was done at that point. Jones then started working at a pediatric clinic in Kerrville, Texas. Within 1 month, 8 children, who only had routine health issues, suddenly stopped breathing. One of them did not survive. It was later discovered that Jones had given these children injections, using substances like digoxin, heparin, and later, something called succinylcholine. Succinylcholine is a strong muscle relaxer. It causes full-body paralysis, including the muscles needed to breathe. In small children, not being able to breathe for even a short time can lead to cardiac arrest. Jones later said she was trying to push the clinic to open a pediatric intensive care unit. She claimed that by creating emergencies, she hoped the need for such a unit would be recognized. In 1985, Jones was found guilty of taking the life of 15-month-old Chelsea McClellan. She had injected the baby with succinylcholine. The court sentenced her to 99 years in prison. She was also found guilty of harming a 4-week-old boy named Rolando Santos. She had injected him with heparin. For this, she received another sentence of 60 years, which was to be served at the same time as the first. In the years that followed, a Texas law designed to ease prison overcrowding allowed certain inmates to be released early. Because of this law, Jones was scheduled for automatic release in 2018 after serving only 1/3 of her sentence. To stop that from happening, prosecutors brought new charges against her. In 2017, she was indicted again, this time for what happened to 11-month-old Joshua Sawyer back in 1981. In January 2020, Jones admitted responsibility in that case. She entered a guilty plea and received a life sentence. In a letter she wrote to the Texas Board of Nursing in 2011, she seemed to admit guilt. She wrote, "I look back now on what I did and agree with you now that it was heinous, that I was heinous." As of May 2016, Jones was being held at the Lane Murray Unit, part of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Kristen Heather Strickland was born on November 13, 1967, in Fall River, Massachusetts. She was the older of 2 daughters. Her father, Richard Strickland, worked in electronics. Her mother, Claudia Strickland, was a homemaker and sometimes taught classes. From a young age, Kristen often lied to get attention. She also threatened to harm herself when she wanted people to notice her. This pattern of behavior began in her teenage years and continued into her early 20s. Kristen finished high school at 16 and then started college at Bridgewater State in 1984. Soon after, she pretended to harm herself, which she had not actually done. Because of that, the school sent her to get help in a psychiatric program. She moved to Mount Wachusett Community College and later to Greenfield Community College. In 1988, she earned a nursing diploma and became a registered nurse. That same year, she married Glenn Gilbert and became known as Kristen Gilbert. She and Glenn had 2 sons before they divorced in 1998. At the time she was arrested, Kristen was living in Setauket, New York. Kristen started working at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center, VAMC, in Northampton, Massachusetts, in 1989. At first, people thought she was a dedicated nurse. But soon, other nurses noticed that many patients passed away when she was on duty. During Kristen's shifts, nearly half of the 350 patients at the VAMC didn't make it. Statisticians said this was very unlikely to be a coincidence. Investigators later found that she was injecting patients with high doses of epinephrine, a medicine that speeds up the heart. These injections caused patients to suddenly stop breathing. Once she created these emergencies, Kristen would be part of the team that tried to save the patient. Co-workers saw her acting like a hero. Prosecutors said she had also tried to cause 2 other patients to pass away in the same way. Her main goal seemed to be getting attention from people, especially her boyfriend at the time, James Perot, who worked as a security guard at the hospital. She liked the rush she got when medical teams rushed to help after she caused an emergency. In 1996, 3 nurses noticed more patients stopping breathing and saw that supplies of epinephrine were running low. They reported these worries to their superiors. An investigation began right away. Kristen tried to stop the investigation by calling in a false bomb threat to the hospital. Authorities traced the call. On July 11, 1996, she was arrested just after leaving a psychiatric checkup at Bay State Medical Center in Springfield. Her trial started in 2000. On March 14, 2001, the jury found her guilty of 3 counts of first-degree charges for taking lives, 1 count of second-degree charge for taking a life, 2 counts of attempted taking of life. Because her actions happened on federal property, she faced the possibility of the harshest federal sentence. On March 26, 2001, the jury recommended she spend the rest of her life in prison without any chance of release. The next day, Judge Michael Ponsor gave her 4 back-to-back life sentences without release, plus another 20 years.